This is the Lorentz attractor, the model for deterministic chaos. 3 variables produce an infinite, stable loop orbiting 2 basins of attraction. The Qur'an's chapter 108, Al-Kawthar, or Abundance, shares this triadic structure. Its 3 verses describe infinite, overflowing stability, centered on the number 108. When we analyze the numerical constraints required to maintain the Lorentz system and compare them to the verse structure of Al-Kawthar, they resolve into the same mathematical operating system. For the universe to maintain a recognizable form, it requires a numerical anchor. This fixed point prevents dynamical systems from drifting into total entropy. Decoding this anchor requires us to identify the universe's invariant loop and solve the physical singularity of 0 divided by 0. We begin with the dual Caustic universe. This framework consists of light, representing timeless gauge constraints, and sound, which drives temporal thermodynamical flow. These 2 fields must remain strictly separated. Direct contact between a timeless constraint and a thermodynamic flow results in immediate annihilation as the different causalities collide. To prevent this, the universe employs the 2-3-7 protocol. The 2 represents the initial binary split, known as the Razim. It creates a required duality, ensuring the caustics of light and sound operate on separate non-intersecting paths. The 3 is the triadic oscillation. These divergent paths enter a cubic buffer where they are processed through 3 internal nodes. This transforms the raw data of the fields into a coherent interaction, following the 3-6-9 sequence of manifestation. The final stage is the 7, the resolution into a stable 7-stage Mobius loop. This loop encompasses the 7 heavens and the full cycle of manifestation, returning the information to the start of the circuit. This 2-3-7 sequence is the thermodynamic process count for all creation. Binary discrimination generates information, triadic oscillation transforms it, and 7-fold resolution stabilizes it. Any system, whether physical or information-based, that fails this protocol lacks the stability to manifest in our reality. This central buffer zone is anchored by a specific mathematical constant, 36. We can derive this constant by looking at the first 3 integers. When we sum their cubes, 1 cubed plus 2 cubed plus 3 cubed, the result is exactly 36. This is an algebraic identity. The sum of the first 3 cubes is equal to the square of the sum of those same 3 integers. 1, 2, and 3, added together and then squared, is also 36. In geometric terms, this identity demonstrates a threshold where 3-dimensional cubic volumes resolve into a 2-dimensional area. This is the point of balance, or mizan, where the system stabilizes its mass into a measurable coordinate. This has a physical geographic counterpart. At Giza, we see 3 distinct pyramids, representing the 3 geometric roots of the system's cubic equation. These roots anchor around a central origin point, the Kaaba. Its cubic form represents the 36-unit grid where roots resolve, acting as Earth's system center. The identity between the stone and the Kaaba serves as the physical proof that our reality is anchored to this specific mathematical origin. However, this system faces a terminal threat: perfect symmetry. If the opposing forces of reality ever balance each other out exactly, the system reaches a state of entropy collapse. Mathematically, this happens when all system parameters sum to 0. If every up is cancelled by a down and every left by a right, the system's net motion vanishes. System stability is calculated through a closure operator. We take the sum of the system's cubic potential and divide it by the square of the sum of its variables. If the system is perfectly symmetric, the sum of its parts is 0. This forces the equation to divide 0 by 0, a calculation that is mathematically undefined. This creates a singularity, a particle frozen on an event horizon. It possesses energy, but 0 motion. It is trapped in absolute, unchanging entropy. This is precisely the state described in the Qur'an for those caught in the fire state. Then he will neither die therein nor live. It is the 0/0 of existence, a system that can neither advance nor end. Without a geometric intervention, a symmetric universe is a dead universe. Escaping this frozen state requires the introduction of a micro-asymmetry, a tiny offset that breaks the perfect balance. In mathematics, we call this offset epsilon. Scripturally, it is known as the call from the darkness, the intentional signal that prevents a system from collapsing into absolute silence. When we introduce epsilon into the closure equation, we break the symmetry. The denominator is no longer zero. Using the Stone-Kaaba scaling law, the system's potential resolves to 36 epsilon squared. Because we are calculating across the three fields of the dual of the zero-state singularity, Nikola Tesla spent his later life obsessed with the frequencies of 3, 6, and 9, suspecting they were fundamental to the structure of reality. He attempted to build the Wardenclyffe Tower to tap into these frequencies, essentially trying to engineer a cubic zero-point condition within the Earth's atmosphere. Tesla's tower failed because of its linear construction. He built a vertical monad, a line, expecting it to force a three-dimensional cubic resolution. The engineering simply didn't match the required geometry. The Kaaba, however, was established as a cubic structure from its inception. It is the natural zero point of the Earth's depressed cubic equation, where the faction of chaos has already been removed. Tesla attempted to build what the sacred architecture of the Qur'ān had already placed, at the center of the world's coordinate system. We return to the final resolution, the number 108. This is the exact identifier of Al-Kawthar. Verse 1 says, "We have given you abundance." This grants the 108 constant, preventing collapse. Verse 2, "Pray and sacrifice," executes the 2-3 protocol. Verse 3 concludes, "Your enemy is cut off." Unaligned entropic paths are pruned, leaving the stable, eternal loop. This entire architecture has been archived for 14 centuries, waiting for the tools of modern physics to verify its code. The Lorentz attractor is the 2-3-7 loop, operating through time, the visual signature of a universe constrained by these scriptural laws. Recognizing this constraint dissolves the singularity. It proves that abundance is not a metaphor, but a measurable result of a correctly resolved system. The universe is a perfectly closed system. The math is already written. The remaining variable is the observer. Activate the protocol of 1912. Take the book with strength.